This video is all about family life, and then it will go on to look at the roles of men and women as well. So, first thing first, when it comes to family life, you could be asked to explain or describe the role of a Catholic family, okay? Guys, please do me a favour, just take a common sense approach to this. So, first things first, alright? Parents should show and teach their children about the importance of love and respect and things like that, okay? Why is that? Because they regard a responsibility to have children, go forth and multiply, but also to not exasperate their children, to pass on, okay? To pass on the ideas of sort of love and respect and all those core sort of like Catholic values, really, all right? So therefore, they would do this, all right, teaching them about just like in their everyday lives, about their rules and all that sort of stuff, right? You've also got to teach them about their faith, all right? So it could be the idea that if you only have a teaching to back that up, these commandments I give you today impress upon their hearts, all right? But if you can just say they've got a responsibility to pass on their faith, and you can even link that to sort of evangelization if you want. Then they've got to think about sort of like the children themselves. All right, and children have to respect their parents. It is one of the commandments to honor thy father and mother. Okay. Also, you can say about that when it comes to sort of the role of the family. Catholics don't just see family as being sort of mum, dad, children. They see it being as the wider family. So whether that's their sort of like their blood relatives, but their Catholic family. So they want to show them love and support them. You can think that the idea of love thy neighbour and that we're all made in the image and likeness of God. We're all God's children. That sort of idea. So you can link that to social and pastoral role as well. Now, at this point, you can sort of say for your fifth or sixth, you want a bit of variation in your answer, that traditional Catholics, some of them think we should have a patriarchal sort of system where you have the sort of the male sort of, the male part of the family, the husband, being like the breadwinner, all right, being the person to go out and sort of make the money. And you can say that there's some sort of Old Testament teachings to back that up, like wives submit to your husbands and things like that. So you can say that a lot of Catholic families have that sort of patriarchal system, or you have that male-dominated man breadwinner. However, the modern church, okay, they say that we're all equal, okay, we're made in perfect equality, and the fact that we've got sort of like our own gifts and talents, we should be whatever parent that we can be. We should fulfill whatever role fits our skills, all right? You can also link it to the fact that the Pope has come out and said that we should favour conditions for work at the home. And the reason why I say that is that it's more important to spend time focused on the family rather than sort of going out and earning money, that type of idea. So there's a lot of stuff that you can say about family life, all right? And going forward then, looking at the roles of men and women, because there's a lot of sort of like similarities between them, that you can mention how when it comes to the role of men and women, that men and women are equal, okay? Equal in all ways, made in perfect equality. So essentially, men and women, all right, there should be no sort of sexism or any of that sort of stuff, and they can do whatever role they want, all right? You should also say that man and women are compatible and made for one another. And you can say that the actual quote to go for that is that man and woman were made for one another. And you can say about how that links to like procreation, that sort of stuff. And you could say that's why they're against same-sex marriage. They believe that when it comes to sort of the role of of men and women within the family, that some traditional Christians, they believe that the man should be the sort of male dominated, wives submit to your husbands, what I just said really in the previous answer. But you can say that the more sort of modern teachings, all right, says that actually we should just focus upon our own gifts and talents and fulfill whatever role that we can. And we should strive to be able to be doing work in the house because the conditions for work within the house are better, means more time you can spend with family, that sort of thing. They also think that sexism is totally wrong. All types of prejudice should be curbed, okay? All types of discrimination. Then you could also say that whilst they believe, this is quite an important one, whilst they believe men and women are equal, they also believe that they are different. So therefore there are different roles that men and women can play in certain scenarios. So for example, that's why in the church you've got what's called only men who can be a priest. So why? Because they're fulfilling the role of Jesus. That doesn't mean men are any better than women, okay? What it does mean is that whilst we are equal, there are sort of different roles that we can play. Now, you could then sort of lead straight on from this is explain the Catholic view on the roles of men and women in the church. So there is obviously now a lot of that same answer we just said, a lot of that answer before, a lot of the same points in this one. So, first things first, men and women are equal. Why? We're made in perfect equality. You can say about we're all made in the image and likeness of God. You can say there is no male or female. We're all just sort of God's children. And what you can say is that this is proved in the church by the fact you can become a nun, that men and women can do certain roles or whatever, the same, like reading in mass or whatever, that type of thing. And you can say that that's why we focus during Mary in Catholicism, she has such an important role for us. It's sort of like proof, if you want, that women must have an important role within the church, are equal to men. They also say that both can commit their lives fully to God, and the reason for this is that they can, again, we're all sort of equal, but that we can all sort of, if you want, just sort of take up a religious order, if you want, we take a religious order and we can commit our lives to God through that way. So therefore, you would say that is why you'll see not just monks, but you'll see nuns as well, all right? So you can say that we all have a role to play in the eyes of God, all right, whether we are man or woman. However, the Catholic Church does believe that there are some roles that are reserved for men, okay? And particularly priests and being a bishop. And the reason for this is that they are fulfilling the role of Jesus in the Mass. Obviously, Jesus was a man, so that's why they do it. That's why it's them. You can also link that to the idea that... you can also link that to the idea of what sort of that Jesus selected his own disciples, okay, and they were all men, and he gave them responsibility of carrying on the church. So you can say that that's why it's called the priest and male, because just like Jesus picked men as his disciples to carry on church, the church continues that sort of practice. There is a bit of variation within this, though. Okay, you can say that, like in other Christian denominations, that women have been ordained as priests, and the reason for that is we are made in perfect equality, all made in the image and likeness of God. You can say there is no male or female in God's eyes. As a result of that, they believe that women can fulfill the role of a priest, okay, or vicar. Then you can say that, if you want that sort of extra fifth point, some other Christians actually have more strict views than Catholics, and they believe that women actually have a lower status than men in the church. And you can think that's sort of the idea of St. Paul's teaching, where he says that to not let women have authority over men, to not allow them to teach. Okay, so in those churches, they would have a lot of the similar sort of practices of Catholics. So there's no female priests, but you might also say that that their role when it comes to reading and other things in the Mass, that they may be again more reserved for men. If you get asked about whether women should be given a greater role in the church, you can just draw upon all those sort of ideas that I said before. So it was all the stuff. So just to give you sort of the idea, they should have a greater role, because if we're all equal, well, why don't we do the same? God doesn't see us as man or woman, or woman. So why does the church see us in this sort of way? But then the disagree is the fact that they believe men and women are equal. They believe that men and women can commit their lives to God in the same way. It was called shouldn't be equal because some roles are reserved for men. And you can say they follow Jesus' example of picking his own sort of disciples who are male, and that things are fairly fair within Catholicism. The reason for that is that in some traditional sort of views that it's actually even stricter. So there's your summary video of the role of the family and men and women.